Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. Happy Valentine's Day and Friday to everybody. I didn't get the note to wear my red outfit. I do want to say happy anniversary to my wife, Madeline, our first year together. And Big Beat, how are you doing today?
Well, I did wear red. It is Valentine's Day, so come on, Howard. What happened there, dude?
Yeah, I guess I wasn't ready. I'll have it out tonight for our, anniversary dinner. I'll be in
Fair
red,
enough.
but, all business today, all business.
Let's go.
Things are moving. Nvidia moves the market, even if it's not them, huh? I think I kind of want to start there.
Yeah,
They talked a little bit. Biggest gainer so far that I've really seen in the day, WRD, We Ride out of China. And the reason why I couldn't find any news at first, and I was looking in the wrong place. Had a look at what Nvidia was up to. Nvidia is invested, bought 1.7 million shares. They're now up 96%, huh?
yeah. I mean, look, we've said this a million times that sell-off in Nvidia was overcooked because of DeepSeek. No, it's DeepSeek is software. You still need the hardware, right? And you're seeing it now. And you saw Grace Blackwell, the AI chipsets. I mean, they got their first delivery at Hewlett Packard. Look at everything's going on. Nvidia right back up. And because it's the only place to really get your AI chipset. And I was not perturbed by it. I didn't like the sell off, but you and I, we happily bought in and bought more again, and we're winning again. So look, I think that we continue that. I'm not changing.
Yeah. I do have to point out on the winner side was WRD, but one of the bigger losers of the day, SERV, which is Serve Robotics. They cut their entire stake in Serve Robotics. It's also hurting SOUN, SoundHound AI, down about 10% after they cut that. And the last one that they cut was NanoX, NNOX, down about 4 or 5% here on that news. It's ARM, we've been talking about that too. We weren't that impressed with what they had going on, and about the only strength that you talked about was this partnership with Nvidia that they had. So are you more bearish on ARM even now than you were?
No. I think they're getting closer to where they should be. ARM, wow. I mean, what's the numbers this morning? I've got to look.
162 from a high of 188.75. So it hasn't pulled back that far.
No. The holdings there, they're still cutting the stake a little bit. They're not completely getting out of it. Right. They want to keep their fingers in ARM, but why do they need to? The distribution of Nvidia is good, and they don't need ARM. So I don't know. I tell you what, if you're asking me anything, the one thing that I really like here on the AI side. I'm going to switch gears just a wee bit here. Is Apple. There is something going on at Apple, and Tim Cook mentioned it. Does that affect Nvidia? I don't know. I know that they're talking about a new product coming out in the next couple of days, but how does that affect Nvidia? I don't think much, right? So the AI chipsets are still going to be needed. I know that Apple itself is trying something here, maybe a new product. We're hearing possibly new AirPods, possibly a new iPad, probably the phone SE, the cheaper version of the new Apple phone. There's a lot there going on. So I'm not quite sure yet, but let's see how Tim Cook responds.
Okay, I will say MGOL up about 37%. We talked about their merger that they have going on right now. So they are back moving up in the right direction there. One that you and I both sort of negative on, had really good earnings, was Roku. Sort of surprised me. I point out the ones that we win and some of them that maybe we weren't on the right side of. I know I definitely wasn't on the right side of Roku. Even though I use it, I don't spend any money on it. That's where I got confused. I'm like, I spent my $30 once. I got it. It's in all my TVs. I use it, but I don't use any programming from them, and I don't have any residual money that goes to them.
And I don't think it's on our side. And I think maybe it's one of the things that I've missed myself. I have a Roku box that sits in front of me, and I never play it, never use it, right? The thing that I'm seeing right now is what they're serving up, right, on the back end. There's companies called Vibe and things of that nature, MTN. that serve up commercials, and they're probably doing quite well right now.
Yeah, platinum revenue, you nailed it. Plus 25% year over year, just past $1 billion in revenue. So you nailed it. That is where I didn't realize they were doing that well on that segment. Because again, like you, I don't really watch it much. I use it on some TVs so I can connect to the internet and download apps, but I just hadn't seen it. And I'll tell you what, the analysts are loving what they heard. I see it. Wells Fargo just moved their price target to 129. Pivotal Research upgraded them to 125. Rosenblatt to 100. Moffett Nathanson actually has a sell rating on them. They're the only one. So one guy's putting his rod on the other side of the boat, but in general, everyone getting on board.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't watch the commercials on Roku. I don't really know what they're thinking, so I'm not still don't like it.
Yeah, that was one that surprised me. Another good winner on earnings was Airbnb overnight, up about 14% here. Yep. My takeaways there were, know where they're getting all their business right now? China and Latin America.
Sure.
Didn't realize it was that big there. I have sometimes too central of a U.S.-centric view on things, and I just always felt that was where most of their business. I've never looked to go overseas using Airbnb personally, so I hadn't known that. Again, another one that got some nice price target adjustments by analysts. TD Cowen moving up to 175 from 155, benchmark from 150 to 178. So again, you see some good analyst reports coming in there from Airbnb. I don't know though. I don't know that their model is going to, there's so much problems in major cities where they don't want to let them sort of run, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to start seeing a little bit of staycation over international because a dollar is too expensive. I mean, yes, the dollar flipped a little bit here, 106.70 now, slipping a lot, which is good. But staycation is doing quite well. Now, I'll tell you one thing that's interesting to me, and I saw it this morning, was this doom spending that we've been seeing over the last, I don't know, maybe 6 months here. And we're starting to see debt on the U.S. consumer at all-time highs here. So this is definitely...
Yeah, numbers just came out. We're not strong on retail sales at all. You've been talking about that. We've been mentioning it here, that's what we've been seeing, step downs from everybody across the board. Inflation is hitting. Heard it on CNBC all morning. Inflation is weighing on people's minds. It's at top of mind for so many people. It's still number one when it comes to what people are looking at on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it from the perspective of the doom spending, what are they spending it on? It's definitely not alcohol. It's definitely not. It's experiences, right? So they are going to the hotels. They are going to the theme parks.
Yeah, we saw casinos doing well. We saw Hershey's do well. We've seen, some of that. It is experiences. We've seen the airlines all reported well. But like you said, they're not buying as much trinkets. I think our generation, Steve, were trinket acquirers. We love to have all the newest gadgets. My nephew and so forth and his people, they're traveling much more. He goes on much more trips than I ever did at his age, traveling not just in the U.S., like you said, around the world. So it does play into that. Steve, I got to tell you, man, you've been on fire when it comes to silver lately.
Yeah.
It broke through 33 finally. It did pull back from that level of 33, got as high as 33.40, I think, overnight.
It's going to go higher. I mean, we're going to 50. I say that all the time. It's 40, 48, 50 is where I think we go to. We're going higher. If you look at gold just fell a little bit out of bed there, 29.17. People are looking to buy all kinds of alternative investments, and I say alternative, not alternative to stocks, right?
Yep.
And this demand here is pretty strong for silver right now.
Yeah, silver, they actually pointed to the demand surges from electrification, manufacturing, and renewables, especially China, India, and Indonesia, as they ramp up their solar power. And like you said, here in the U.S., where tariffs have fueled a safe haven, buy into silver. But moving up, as you mentioned, another one, I got a first analyst I've seen besides you and Peter Thomas calling for 3,000 in the near future. Karsten Fritsch from Commerce Bank agrees with you guys, says to watch for 3,000 here over the first quarter of the year, and then warns of a correction risk after that. But definitely.
Yeah, I mean, right, correct. I think that's absolutely right. We're going to hit the numbers, and then people are going to start selling and watch for those commercials on TV, right? But when you look for the gold buying here, it's strong. It's strong internationally. And what's pushing gold up so much now is that they can't make it fast enough. There's not enough gold in well, in this case, the banks. There's not enough gold in the stores right now, and gold prices are pushing higher. They're trying to tamp down the selling of gold, but it's not happening. You know, when you see gold in Costco, there's a reason.
There's a line. They're sold out in minutes. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. You know what I've never asked you, is there a good place where you can see the difference between like what gold is trading on the future market versus the actual ingots or something like that? I guess maybe
the spot spread to the futures. Obviously, you can overlay them on your charts. Okay. You can lay gold.
I didn't know if it was like ETH Bitcoin, where maybe they had a pairing or something like that maybe would give me that. You know, I don't like to do work. I'm lazy. So I was hoping that would be the case. Yeah, but we're seeing that Bitcoin still pretty stable. We're up a couple of pennies from where we were yesterday, Steve. Two things I got to point out there. Coinbase and Robinhood. You've been asking me who's selling. Right. We talked about it this morning. Who's selling? Retail, right? Both Coinbase, Robinhood had huge numbers on retail investors on their crypto sides on their earnings report. Both made it clear that retail is what took us to that new all-time high. Who's taking us down now? It's weak hands in retail. I also pointed out to you a couple of things I was looking at that I look at on on-chain metrics. And what we're seeing is the demand is rebounding. And what I mean there is the amount of order book orders that are put in places is now over 100,000 Bitcoin. It had dropped 80% below that in January to all-time lows, basically. There wasn't much demand. There weren't sell orders. We're seeing the sell orders come in. We're seeing the Bitcoin miners increasing their hash power, which means they feel the prices are going to go up. So just trying to let everybody know what's going on in the market. I will warn, though, it's also one of the highest levels of leverage that we've seen in the market in 2025. Nothing towards the highs we saw in 2024. But right now, for every dollar being invested or traded in the crypto market, there's only 26 cents backing it. So something to worry about. We see leverage at almost a 3-to-1 ratio, 4-to-1 ratio.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. You know, retail doesn't run the world, and they may think they do. It is an institutional world. They may not like that answer, but it's true. And Michael Saylor does not care what the retail is doing. In fact, he's probably hoping that they sell to him.
He is.
And they are. And that's what I'm seeing, right? But when I look at it from the perspective of who's buying right now, I need to see foreign entities buying. You hear all of these, my state's going to have a sovereign wealth fund, and my fund's going to this, and my fund's going to do that. Well, that's great. I'm glad you talked a lot of nonsense. Do it. That's what I always say. Just do it. They're not doing it, right? You've heard Trump talk about the sovereign wealth fund of the United States. Great. Stop talking about it. Just do it. If that's the case,
I don't think we'll see that Bitcoin at a federal level for a long time. But Correct. What we are seeing is it at lower levels. Like we said, we saw our first university sort of jump in this year. Texas was the first to use part of their endowment. There's about 4 others that are in the process of that. Idaho has funded their first account to purchase Bitcoin. They haven't announced their purchase yet. They were the first state to get to that level. So we are seeing it. Biggest move, though, that has people all up in arms across the crypto universe is Ryan Cohen, the CEO of GME, spent some time with Michael Saylor over the weekend. And, you know, GME, as you've talked about, no one's going into those stores. They have a ton of money sitting on the sidelines, over $1.6 billion. And with that, the talk is that they are going to get into Bitcoin as a reserve strategy. You think it's a good move for GameStop? I mean, I don't know what else they do.
It's a great move for GameStop. I'll tell you why. Not because they're buying crypto, but that this will give GameStop another avenue to accept money. Meaning that if I go into GameStop and I want to buy a game, great. And I can now buy it with crypto and they can accept my Bitcoin and they'd be happy, right? Because they'll be very happy to do that. I've said this, I can't tell you how many years now I've said this, that eventually Michael Saylor, I mean, it's not strategy.
He has to, right?
It's not MicroStrategy anymore, it's strategy now, right? That it'll be the bank of Michael Saylor when it comes to crypto.
Well, yeah, that's what it is. I mean, someone leaked already that's what that logo mean, strategy B, as in strategy bank, is what they will be down
There
the
you go.
road. That is
Exactly.
absolutely his goal. I don't think it's been hidden. He's done a very good job of hiding it.
And
But
these
we try to
kids
get
have
there.
money. They're going to spend their Bitcoin. They're going to buy their anime. They're going to buy their games with Bitcoin. They're just going to do it. So yeah, I think it's a great move with GameStop.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. The other part that I'll point out is because they have, one thing that their CEO did a good job of is he raised money when that stock mooned, right? And he did an offering, and now they're sitting on a large pile of cash. And they actually, in a short amount of time, in about 3 months, it was said, could actually acquire as much Bitcoin as MicroStrategy holds now because of the way they're trying to do their convertible bonds the same
But
way.
they won't do that because they have other things they need to purchase, right? They need
Well,
to
they're
pay.
not. It's not about that. It's about, again, they're going to raise the money to buy it through convertible bonds. It just
Right.
allows them to have the money to go to the bank and say, I've got 1.6 billion as leverage to.
Who's going to buy a convertible bond at GameStop so that they can buy Bitcoin when they can just buy Bitcoin themselves? I don't think the convertible
Everybody.
bond.
That's what Michael Saylor raised $600 million in less than a week for
Michael
it.
Saylor did it, but I don't see it happening with Ryan Cohen at GameStop. I don't see people buying the convertible debt. I don't see banks pushing it on their customers saying buy GME's convertible debt so that they can buy Bitcoin. If they're going to come in and say, well, why would I want to buy Bitcoin through GameStop's convertible debt, right? Because they don't get their money back, right? They get 5% on their money, whereas Bitcoin can go up 100% and they win, right? I don't see that happening, right? Michael Saylor selling convertible debt to get the next level? Yes, because guess what? If Michael Saylor fails, then they get to own all the Bitcoin from Michael Saylor. So Michael Saylor, that makes a lot of difference, right? But these investment companies are not going to want to buy GameStop so they can buy their old games later down the road. They're not going to do that. Michael Saylor is one thing, and it's Bitcoin, and I'm agree with that, and I agree with institutions buying their convertible debt. Convertible debt meaning they're buying the debt of the company. If they don't like it, then they end up buying stock of the company, right? They can convert that stock, and I that's what's going to happen, right? Nobody wants to own GameStop stock if the convertible debt doesn't go through or they fail, right? That's the difference.
Okay, we'll see. Again, everybody that I've seen, that every company so far that's done a Bitcoin treasury has exceeded their raise that they targeted. So we'll see which way that falls.
I don't think that'll happen with GameStop, though.
No, we'll see. China tech stocks have been on fire, Steve. They continue as more talk of stimulus there. If we take a look, Alibaba up again nicely, JD up. All of them are doing move up. Baba up 6% here today. Baidu up 3.09%. JD up 6.21%. So we are definitely seeing all those tech stocks out of China move up today. NEO even up 2.35% on the car side. You trust in this? Or do you think that Z and DJT are going to get along and all play nice? Because it seems like the markets are starting to believe it.
100%. We've said that. I've said that last summer, that if Trump wins, that you start to see some of these mismatched politicians, meaning Trump and Putin and Trump and Xi, will start to come together and become friends again. And that will kick in together. And we're seeing that already. And Modi buying more planes. We're seeing Xi talk nice. Putin, the bros now are getting together because they want to meet together now in Moscow and DC, and first in a neutral place. You didn't hear that in the last 4 years in the Biden administration. So yes, but we're living tweet by tweet, and that's not always a good place. So if Xi Jinping says something wrong to Trump and Trump gets upset about it and he tweets about it and he screams tariffs, then the stock falls down, right? I would just say I love this fact that we're seeing China stocks pushing up. This is good. I would just say make sure you have protection on have what I call the market condoms, right? But make sure you have on some kind of protection in some way, right? You're buying some puts, maybe long dated puts, just to protect yourself, or you're putting in some orders to protect yourself, something of that nature. Just be careful out there.
Absolutely. Always be careful out there. Steve, oil's rebounded a little bit here overnight. I saw WTI and Brent were both up about a 0.5 percentage point here. Not much news. What I've noticed is market relief based upon Trump delaying tariffs. So it looks like it was a lot of talk, not a lot of action.
Well, Modi says he was going to buy more oil from us, right? They need oil. They don't have oil. We have plenty of it, right? So Modi says he's going to buy more oil from us, and that will definitely put a floor under us as well. I know that there's a floor around $70 on oil right now, just because of the SPR filling it up. And look, if it is the case of where nat gas can come down a wee bit to help out the European side of things, then possibly oil could come back down again. So we're right in the right area, I think. 71.50, 72 to 70 is about where oil should be.
Okay, and that's about where we're at. I don't know if you saw the big move by your man Ray Dalio. I know you spoke to him when he was at Davos. He has jumped into Tesla in a big way, $62 million bet. Those of you that were listening, again, I was interested in Tesla at 330. I am probably looking, I'm saying here, you know, at a 10% gain, I'm looking maybe to lessen my position there. So we'll see what we got. I know your NVIDIA, our NVIDIA, we're both in that, moving up still nicely here, up another 0.5% pre-market. It did break and hold above that 50-day MA that I was worried about yesterday, Steve, at that 135.24. So I'm feeling really good as long as we can stay above that level. 135.24 for me is sort of that line.
We're going back to the 140s, 150s. Probably do it quickly. We still haven't cleared that gap yet. That gap all the way up to, oh my gosh, we could go back to 145 here soon. Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Yep. So that's looking good. You mentioned Apple had a strong day yesterday, up 2%, getting hit a little bit today. They have some announcements coming up, as you meant, on new product releases. We'll see what they have. Microsoft giving back exactly what they gained yesterday. They were up, 37 basis points. They're down 38. I got to say, they seem to be the most uninteresting of the Mag 7 right now. You just don't hear a lot about them. There's not a lot of excitement going on there. Amazon, Google, both down, Meta down here in the pre-market. Netflix about flat, but Netflix sitting at 1040 here, Steve. Do you think it makes a run to 1100?
You know, back last, I think when I was on Schwab, we were talking about it at 750, going to 1,000. I think people thought I was nuts back then. I think 1,000 is being generous. I think we're going to go higher, probably go to about 11 or 1,200 here, because it's still Netflix and chill. People are still buying it. Look, I talked about this the last couple of shows, that the international versions, it's cheaper to buy international shows and import them into us. There's one now called The Recruit that I think people are watching here as well. Shogun hit a big one there, a big winner there. So people are wanting to watch Netflix. It is the stalwart, and I think it goes higher. I will say this much. They've also moved into gaming as well. And that gaming, I don't know how well people are actually going to Netflix and playing games on the TV. But I will say this much. The international expansion is really good. So well done there.
Absolutely. As we're getting ready to open here, we're seeing that it looks like 8 of the 11 sectors of the Spider Select funds are opening positive right now. Biggest winner looks to be XLY, which is consumer discretionary so far. Energy sector doing well. On the losing side, technology is so far the one dragging, and a lot of those are the chips that are being affected by NVIDIA's sale, not necessarily their price today, but again, we saw some big moves down by ARM and some of these other chip companies that they divested from. So that seems to be moving the market so far. Overnight, again, Chinese markets moved up nicely, almost 0.5 point. We have seen the stocks basically continue to rise. Sort of
you want to talk about the big story today, I think, is not what we're talking about yet. The big story of the day is the 10-year and the 30-year. Okay. With retail sales slipping as much as they did, we have heard from several people talking about how they want to see rates come down. I have been screaming it, almost beating the table. I haven't beat the table yet. I haven't done that yet. Trump has been asking for these rates to come down, and that 10-year has slipped. I think we're almost like a 2-week low here, and we're in a big low here when it comes to the 30-year. 4.685% on the 30-year. So if you're looking at a jumbo loan, you're looking at $500,000 to buy a home here, a jumbo loan. You are smiling today. If you weren't smiling over the last few days, so happy Valentine's Day for those of you looking to buy a home. I think if you wait another month or two, I think you're going to see rates down to 4.25, 4.3, 4.25. That would make a lot of people happy, and I think the housing markets will start to move again.
Yeah, that would give some breathing room. Those are the spots we were in the beginning of December. It did move house sales up a little bit, not a lot. I think it's going to take a little bit more than that. Unfortunately, I think people have to get their credit card debt and some of these other things that we've talked about today that are already weighing on a lot of Americans.
Most definitely. You hit the nail on the head there, Howard. Debt on personal debt is at an all-time high. That's just absolutely atrocious to me, and that tells you exactly where we are as a country.
Because 2 years ago, Jamie Dimon talked about how we were at all-time highs, right? That's why he thought we wouldn't have a recession. Quite honestly, he was one of the few people that very early on said, nope, people have enough money, they're going to get through. He came out in the last earnings and said, people have no more money. And now it's showing up into the retail
numbers.
It all.
They've gone all these trips, they've spent it all, and now they don't have money to live on, and now they don't know what to do, right? And so here we are. And you're seeing it now. They're cutting back on retail spending. So when retail spending starts to slip, here you are. So I think that we got to be careful here. We're not quite out of the woods yet.
Absolutely. You and I talked about it. What's the next tweet? What does it do to the market? It makes it a little bit harder. I do want to warn everybody, it is a 3-day weekend. For those that don't know, we have President's Day on Monday. Markets will be closed and we will be off. So I do want to warn you.
Silver 33.27. Look at that thing.
I think that tells you everything about how people feel right now.
Yeah. And you think about it when you look at it from that perspective, you say, okay, why silver and not gold here? And I think it's because the retailer buying silver.
And you can get it.
Yeah.
You can actually, and they do. I mean, I think that I would say that as me being more of a minnow versus you being a whale, we look at silver because it is right. It's more affordable. I can buy some, I might not have the money to buy a troy ounce of gold, but I do have the money to buy a troy ounce of silver. That's another big learning lesson I had over the past week. I never realized how the troy ounce worked and why it was in place. More than I understood. I knew there was a difference, but I actually looked into the background of why that is. It's the only unit of measurement still in existence from the Roman times.
That is correct.
Okay, we are 3 minutes from the open here. Tick has been fairly neutral to positive here. Advanced declines in that zone where it's wishy-washy at 1,500 because it can move either way, positive or negative, and start the market one way or the other. So we'll have to wait here till 9:30 to know which way we're really going to see directionally. But with that being said, SPY and QQQ have both moved positive here since the 8:30 news. So that's good to see a little bit of a move up into the market open so far. SPY up about 8 basis points, QQQ up about 7. Just trying to think. I didn't have any other sector news that I sort of wanted to go over, and it's more individual stocks that had earnings are still sort of there. One thing I want to bring up, Faraday Futures, one of those pumpers that I like to watch, actually shipping cars, Steve. So we have one of these companies that was sort of what I would call a meme stock company, actually turning into a car company. They announced that they shipped their first EVs from China to Los Angeles. And their testing and development phase will kick off. And what's interesting or exciting, Faraday is putting together this FX fleet that's going to be priced between $30,000 and $50,000. So, while I might not be looking for that in Ohio and states like California, where, that move to EV is being forced by the government, this gives a much more affordable version out there than is currently in the market. So an interesting one for me. I've always watched Faraday because they're just one of those perennial pumpers that you could watch and get some good movement there. So it was interesting to see that. Dexcom was another one I was watching here this morning, Steve, having some nice earnings, up 3.67%. They talked about the fact that they're expanding into Japan and France, and they're betting big on their over-the-counter CGM Stalo. So again, Dexcom, a medical supply company and healthcare company, one of the few moving up here in that area. Do want to point out that casinos, still moving strong here today, Steve. After MGM's good earnings yesterday, went up about 5% here today. I saw Caesars was up this morning again. MGM, after being up 17% yesterday, up another 1.7%. So it does look like the gambling sector definitely getting some love this morning.
And I'll say this much. We talked about the doom spending and people going to travel, right? Las Vegas is winning in this case. The Bitcoin conference is in May. Guess where it's going to be? Las Vegas, right?
Vegas, yeah.
Lady Gaga goes to Vegas. It's Vegas, 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 Vegas. You know, during COVID, got hit pretty hard.
Open, yeah, and I would say, and as more sports teams are looking to go there, it's going to make even more of a draw, because if you go watch your team on the road, you go to Vegas, people love it. We did see advanced decline move up to 34.53 here, so we are seeing a little bit of buying on the open. SPY up and QQQ both 7 basis points here. The RUT, big winner so far, up 43 basis points so far this morning at 22.91. See if it can break that 2,300 level this morning.
Come on, NVIDIA. There we go.
Interesting here at 1503, Steve. So you were talking about buying that protection. Love VIX down here below 15 if it can get there for sure.
137 now on NVIDIA.
Looking at the Mag 7, Tesla now 361.61, so it's trying to continue up to the upside here. Now that's a 2-day run of about 12% here on NVIDIA, on Tesla. The other one moving up nicely. NVIDIA broke 137. We know yesterday that was the sort of the line in the sand. It couldn't stay across. So let's see if we can hold that 137. First move to there, not going so well.
I'm not scared.
Nope. Apple is moving back into the green this morning. Meta moving into the green. Netflix moving into the green. Netflix looks like it wants to challenge 1,050 here. So, man, it is one. It's been the leader in the Mag 7 here. You can't argue that for 2025. It's been the year of Netflix so far. Take a look here. Baidu up 4% now. Coinbase gets interesting. Coinbase had great earnings overnight, went up tremendously in the post market, trading yesterday, hit a high of 303, but it's pulled back here about 3.28%, right to where it almost gapped up here. So interesting one here for me. Coinbase, I think, would be a buy. I like it. So definitely one that's interesting on that side. CVNA, nice move up 1% here today. Foot Locker up. So even with retail sales being bad, seen a couple of the cheaper retailers. Dollar Tree up 1.26%. Foot Locker up 1.16% so far. Intel continuing to move up here, Steve. 24.50 now, up 1.53% after that strong move up yesterday.
Seeing the January cap utility rate, that's 77.8% versus estimate of 77.4%. So could see a little bit more there in the cap rate.
Intel looks like it's trying to challenge that 200-day MA that rejected it yesterday. That's at 24.73, so that's the area to keep an eye on there on Intel today. Micron up 3.49%, so getting a little love in the chip sector today. Now up, 3.56, 99.07. Nice move up by Micron. Neo now up 4%. So the Chinese name is continuing to move up. Temu's parent company, PDD, up 2.7%. Palantir recovering a little bit today at 120, up 2%, Steve.
Palantir will continue to push higher.
Yeah, that's a new all-time high. It hit again today. So it's continuing just to print new all-time highs. SMCI with a nice little bounce back here too, Steve, 5.63, continuing its move up. We're seeing a few that are continuing up. TAP A, Molson Coors, we talked about them yesterday. They were one of the bigger pre-market movers yesterday, up another 7% here. So you said alcohol sales are down. Maybe beer is doing a little better. And that would really be highly based upon their tariff situation, because they get their biggest sellers are Corona out of Mexico. Corona, is not that. Modelo is that. Modelo out of Mexico. So they get a bunch of beer out of there.
Yes, I agree. It's beer. It's not hard alcohol.
Yeah. Corona is Constellation. Didn't want to give the wrong information.
China's Wang Yi says we can't have conflict between China and U.S. I mean,
he's been soothing the way. Yeah. So Bitcoin back to 96.7 here, so it's moving up nicely here. Most of the alts moving up pretty well too. There was news too. The SEC has accepted, I want to word this correctly, they have accepted the applications for both XRP and Cardano ETFs from the Grayscales and others. So it means they're actually beginning the review process. They basically sit in limbo until they start the review process. Once they start the review process, they then have tight timelines that they have to keep in place to give answers. So we are starting the clock on some of these alts that are looking at ETFs here. So we'll see how that moves.
UK's Foreign Minister David Lammy now says the US and UK agree that Zelensky must be part of any Ukraine peace talks, and we are still some way from a negotiated peace. It looks like Zelensky's not wanting to be a part of this peace process here.
I don't know if so. I don't know if it's that as much as there was a lot of talk coming out of Russia yesterday and sort of that area saying it's going to be on our terms. I talked to Trump and it's on our terms. And I think that Zelensky, I was actually watching him on Twitter. He was just sort of coming back and saying, hey, I had a great talk with Trump after he spoke to Putin, and he made it clear that I will be part of the process of doing it. So I think that was a little bit of sort of that world of Twitter giving two different worlds depending on who you
they're both going to pump their chest. I mean, I get all of that.
They both are. Yeah, they both absolutely are. They're both claiming victory, basically.
I mean, is that what war's about, right? But if we're going to see some kind of peace talks there, we need to see it quickly.
Absolutely. Seeing a big move up here by CE Selenase here, up 7.52%. They were not up in the pre-market here, so they are moving now. Let's see if they had earnings today that moved this. No, they have. Yeah, they do have earnings today. So they might have already, someone might have got an advanced start at those earnings here. I'm trying to see. Here you go. Yeah, their earnings have come in. They've declared a quarterly dividend of about 3 cents. That is actually down from what they had before. But the first move on Selenase is to the upside here after their earnings. Let's see what else is pumping so far this morning. Like I said, Airbnb, Selenase, West Pharmaceutical, which we talked about yesterday, seen another strong day today. Actually, they had a terrible day yesterday. They got hit hard on earnings yesterday. They're bouncing back. West Pharmaceuticals, like I said, Wynn Resorts moving nicely to the upside. Super Microcomputer, Dexcom, Micron, all moving to the upside nicely. On the other side of that, we see DaVita now down 13.48%. GoDaddy just got hit on earnings, down 10.02%. And Ingersoll Rand it down 5.88%. Steve, Palo Alto is another one that got hit pretty hard after their earnings. I do have some numbers here on theirs because theirs what came out early enough for me.
I think they beat on the earnings, and I think they beat on the revenue, top line and bottom line. So I think a lot of the sell-off in Palo Alto is a little bit much. I don't like that. I think the problem was they were talking about the guidance was a little light. I don't know. I don't agree with it. It could be a nice pickup down here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. They did have a 14% year-over-year beat, like you were talking about in their EPS beat consensus. The big controversy seems to be something that I know you don't like. Palo Alto is offering free products to drive adoption of its broader security suite. You've always been a man that told me, free trials don't usually work for people, for companies,
right? That's right. They don't usually work.
So it seems like the market's agreeing with you there right away. Definitely a controversial move there. They did lower or gave out their revenue projection to be towards the lower end of their former range. So I think that's got them down too. But, they're ones that trade at ridiculous multiples, though, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Banco Santander says that they are going to raise their investment bank bonuses by about 5%.
Yeah, they do trade at 51 times earnings. So that's part of the reason probably that we're seeing that on Palo Alto also. When you trade at those, you end up, in general, needing to have amazing return, amazing results on your earnings to keep up. So could be one, like you said, could be interesting, and watch how that plays out here over the day or the next day and seeing if it's something that you might want to pick up down here.
97.3 on Bitcoin.
Yep, moving up a little bit. Again, those numbers that I gave you today and the reasons why I am bullish don't mean today by any means. It's just things are starting to line up more on the bullish camp than the bearish camp when it comes to some of the on-chain metrics there. So I don't want to try to take a victory lap. Wow, WRD now up 104%, Steve, on that NVIDIA move. Wow. And I would say that's a direct shot at Waymo and Tesla because they are China's answer to autonomous driving, or one of China's biggest answers to autonomous driving. So one to keep an eye on. Seeing a little pullback here by Airbnb, a little bit of a sell-off after the open here. They had been up as high as 161, pulling back to 158.20.
Tick is very bullish here.
It ticks 500. Advanced declines moved up to 3,000. So definitely a green day. And we're seeing it in the broad spectrum, all four of the major indices. The Dow Jones up now 2 basis points. SPY up 10 basis points. The one that's trailing right now is actually, it just went red. QQQ. Is the Mag 7 leading to that? I don't think so. Yeah, Microsoft.
Yeah, there's been some profit taking, looks like, with 97,100 now on Bitcoin. A little profit taking. I don't blame them. I'm not too. WRD has been halted there.
Yeah, so look at that. That's one I would not.
Italy's prosecutors are probing Amazon on an alleged $1.2 billion tax issue.
That's interesting. And that does have Amazon down 72 basis points. They are the drag on NASDAQ right now. Tesla down about a half a point too. Like I said, that 360 is going to be a tough area for it to get through. Keep an eye there. The one that's not having trouble, 1045 on Netflix. It might hit 1050 today. Wow. Chip sector, broadband getting beat up pretty hard here. Steve down 2.29%. TSM down 2%. Also, ASML down almost 0.5%. AMAT had bad earnings also. Well, not bad earnings. They beat earnings, but they're having a bad reaction to their earnings, I guess I should say. They had an EPS beat of $2.38 a share. It was expected to come in at $2.28. Let me pull up the rest of my information here on their earnings. Their gross margin hit 48.9%, the highest in 25 years due to strong demand and pricing power. So interesting to see it fall down on some of these news. Their Q2 revenue forecast was $7.1 billion, which was below analyst expectations. Their EPS forecast, though, is beating it. So a little interesting that they really are doing it. We do see the first analyst to come out. KeyBank is giving them an overweight rating and pricing them at 225. So the analysts seem to like it more than the market. Do you like them here, Steve?
No.
Okay.
No, I think they're in a tranche to go down even further. Applied Matt, no, I don't like them.
Okay. ARM down about 4%. We talked about a lot of that based upon the move of NVIDIA out of there. So they're down. E-commerce, mixed bag here, most of it being led by the overseas companies. Baba up 3.62%. Like I said, Temu's parent company up 1.23%. JD up 4.17%. CPNG up 0.5 percentage point. So most of it being done by the overseas company. Etsy with a nice little move up here today, up 3.8%. And Wayfair. So we're seeing again, it sounds like retailers, Wayfair up 5.11% here this morning. The only news I see there is that they've added Diana Frost, who was Kraft Heinz's global chief growth officer, to the board of directors. So it does see them moving up. I don't know. I don't think I've ever bought anything on Wayfair. Costco
back in the day, I would say, but I haven't bought anything lately.
Costco down at 106.9 here, pulling back a little bit. It had set an all-time high again yesterday at 107.8. So a little bit of breathing room here. People taking a little bit of profits. Again, not surprising. Shopify getting hit pretty hard here, down 2%, Steve. 125.09.
I think a lot of this today is zero DTE trading here on the options markets. And I'm just snickering while they're playing and losing their money. I think we just stay long NVIDIA.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there for sure. Tick continues to stay in the red. Advanced decline continue to rise here. But the technology sector, definitely a sector getting hit the hardest. It's still negative on the QQQ.
Coinbase still flipping here.
And if we look at the Spider Selects, again, 9 of the 11 are up, with XLP, which is consumer staples, down about 0.3, and technology down a little bit here. Big winner, energy today, Steve, up 1.77% here. So energy sector, so far the winning sector. Take a look if anything else is moving up here. Builder's First Choice is moving up now, up 3.32% on the day. So we do see them moving up a little bit. As we talked about, energy companies, Devon Energy up 2.73%. Marathon Petroleum, MPC, up 2.71%. Steve, you talked about Albemarle as it made a move yesterday, continuing to make a move here at 81.19, now up 2.65% on the day. Home builders moving up here. DR Horton up 2.58. As you mentioned, that's probably based upon the fact that rates are starting to move down, right? So we see people listening to you here this morning, Steve, and moving in there. Occidental, another one moving up 2.49, that's one of yours and Warren Buffett's favorites, right? You've always been a fan of Occidental over the years.
Yeah, Occidental has a lot of nat gas out there in Oklahoma, and I think they're going to do very well.
Seeing Pulte Group move up also, so I would also look at Lennar as another one of the home builders you could look here on a sympathy play if you're looking there. And again, Phillips 66 up nicely, Hess up nicely, Enphase Energy. So definitely a day for the energy companies getting a nice move. Energy and casinos today seem like the big winners, Steve, huh?
Doom spending. 97.3 now on Bitcoin. Still trying to push up a little bit here.
Yeah, getting a little bit of love.
And silver staying above the 33 handle there.
Seeing some real estate getting hit a little bit here. Federal Realty Investment Trust, one of the REITs, down about 3.73%. The Cooper Company is down about 4.06%. Procter & Gamble getting hit pretty hard here, Steve, down about 4% here today. See if there's any news there that we
retail sales are down. I mean, Procter & Gamble is pretty much everything you buy, from toothpaste to whatever, Yeah.
Absolutely. It's funny. It's on the same day that Wells Fargo raised their price target to 185.
Tether says it's
acquired 1.86%.
Tether says it's acquired a minority stake in Juventus Football Club.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I think Tether is going to be one of the world's largest corporations sooner than later. I don't know if I'm a big fan of it, I'll be honest with you. They've had some past indiscretions, in my opinion, and there's been some controversy around them. Since they added Howard Lutnick and Cantor Fitzgerald as a partner, they seem to have straightened away some of that. But they were the crypto company that made the most money during the bull runs. They, without a doubt, and stable coins just continue to grow. And they're the only people that really make money on a stable coin, them and Circle. And they just keep on buying different, parts of the ecosystem. So Tethers want to keep an eye on. They've moved out of crypto and into different areas at the urgence of some of these companies too. So it's an interesting one. I'd like to see them move. I could see there's one where I will give you a little bit of a shockwave. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tether open up a U.S. corporation here in this year. They don't deal with U.S. customers right now of any sort because of the rules, laws, and regulations. I saw that they are starting to accept institutional investment out of the United States now directly. So if you were a U.S. company or a U.S. investor that wanted to use Tether, you either had to form an LLC outside of the U.S. to do that, use a subsidiary of your company from outside the U.S., or you had to buy Tether through an exchange. Now those companies in the U.S. are going to have a direct line to mint their own Tether.
My goodness, dollar now. Dixie 106.58. Continue to slip here on those retail numbers.
Yeah, we do have Mr. Flanagan coming in about 10 minutes to break down everything on the forex. We'll be all over that with him. That's, I mean, look at how fast that's moved in the last 2 days. This is, and it just broke below. So we got to be careful. We got to see what Mr. Flanagan says. You know, he had that 106.64 area. He warned us if it breaks below that, watch for the vacuum to start to suck it down towards this 106.05 area. So we'll be asking him about that as soon as he comes on here this morning. Has stabilized since about 9:45 here, but it's been on a continual decline. You can see on the hourly chart, it's been ugly since, you know, Monday, February 10th at about 9 o'clock at night. It's been a pretty steady decline across the DXY here. What's interesting too is what's moving up is the euro and the sterling pound versus the US dollar. It isn't the Asian markets and it isn't Mexico and Canada right now as much. Bitcoin dropping back down to 97,343 here, Steve. Gold holding up nicely above 33.15 here.
Hearing that ARK Venture Fund is continuing to buy into SpaceX another $7 million.
Wow. I don't know how I feel about Van Eck and their stuff.
Hearing reports that in Ripple could possibly be the lawsuit, might possibly be over there. Ripple, the SEC will discuss settlements today in a meeting.
Yeah, I mean, so Glaringhouse got a role in that crypto. You know, he's part of the crypto team that Trump's putting together. So
Right.
a lot of controversy about that. I don't get too involved in it. They have their views. They are very anti-Bitcoin, so that's also a drag on Bitcoin. The longer that he is close to President Trump, the harder it will be to get that Bitcoin strategic reserve in place.
Hearing reports that Pentagon now is preparing potential cuts for Doge, according to the Wall Street Journal.
Wow. That's going to be interesting to hear because we know that that was the area that everybody talked about that Trump wouldn't cut in, right? That was why they didn't think Doge would work. A lot of the naysayers were pointing to the fact that if he didn't touch Social Security and he didn't touch defense, how was he going to save this $1 trillion?
You got LMT right now and RTX right now. RTX dropping pretty heavily here, down 1.4%.
Yeah, I mean, this would hurt. I wonder if this is hitting Palantir and some of those too. Palantir's biggest client is DOD. Just hearing from Ron, JTAI will be acquired. JTAI announcing it's going to be bought out. That is Jet AI. That is Fly Exclusive. Looks like they're going to buy them. Fly Exclusive to put AJ Aviation Unit in an all-stock deal. They might have the price here, Ron. Let's see.
We are seeing a little bit of a push here now on the 10-year now, 4.476, coming back a little bit here.
Yeah, they didn't give it's a 50 million term sheet, but they didn't give you the price here. Purchase price of transactions linked to Jet AI's net cash multiplied by a premium percentage of 115 to 120%. So we're on to moving price purchase there. If you look at it, the price purchase for the transaction will be linked to their net cash, and they must maintain at least 12 million in net cash for the deal to go through. So it does look like there are some contingencies there. Tick has come down a little bit here to almost flat. We're seeing advanced decline move down a little bit here. So we are seeing a little bit of a pullback across. The Dow is basically flat here at 44,713. SPY is at 610.45. It is up about 12 basis points here. It's coming off of the highs of the day. It did get as far up as 610.64, but pretty close here. And QQQ rebounded nicely here. 536.55, moving back up towards the highs of the morning. Also, RUT is at the highs of the morning here, 22.95. So we are seeing a little bit of positivity, and we can see, a nice move up here by an NVIDIA today, up 1%, Apple up almost 1%, Meta up to 730.87. It had been above 731 a little bit earlier here, and Netflix trying to break that 1050 has the Mag 7 leading the way so far.
Dan Ives of Wedbush now loving on Tesla, even though it's down 11% year to date. Says the best is ahead for Tesla, saying right now that he thinks that Elon is spreading himself a wee bit too thin, and I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. You called that the other day. You brought it up, and I've seen it mentioned about 100 times since then. Now in a lot of the analyst talk, it's funny. Tesla is so controversial. I've seen 4 people on CNBC today, and they've all had very divergent views on Tesla. Is it a car company? Is it not a car company? Can they do autonomous driving as well as Waymo? Can they, is his connection with the president good for the business or bad for the business? Is he there just to get federal contracts or whatever? So it is interesting to watch it play out. Get your popcorn ready and watch it.
I think if you look at it from the perspective of international, and there's some countries like Germany that are not happy with Elon Musk, and those are actually starting to slip a bit. So it sales there. So
yeah, it's a question of balance. Will the more of the right wing side buy his cars at the loss of the left wing? I guess is what you'd ask, right?
And we talk about that, and there it is. Doge's limestone mine discovery proves Elon Musk's waste cutting is vital. So you're hearing that's New York Post saying that. So look, we're starting to see some mainstream media talking pretty good about Elon Musk is cutting waste there.
Mentioned today too, Steve, is the day that Charles Hawkinson is meeting with Mr. Musk in the White House to discuss the use of Cardano, maybe. And again, it would probably be a private chain, but putting the Doge, their whole work here onto the blockchain. So we'll see what comes.
Yeah, I mean, let's see who goes into the Lincoln bedroom and have a chat, right?
Yeah.
I think Hawkinson and Elon, they need to think about a couple more things than just how do we make the world a better place through blockchain and crypto. I think they need to talk about it as a perspective of how do we implement crypto into the buying and selling of into Costco, Amazon, these places. And you're starting to see that with GameStop, GME. And so there is a good chance here that something may come out of this.
Yeah, for me, it's more about the federal adoption of blockchain as a use for transparency. Absolutely. And that's what I want to see there, is what you would be able to do is in a matter of seconds, query what you wanted to see and prove that what they say they're doing, what we say is being spent on X is being spent on X, and it's fully, verifiable. And
Cheddar Flow is now saying that Microsoft, we talked about this morning, that there's a lot of call selling out there that's very negative. That means that there's a bunch of companies out there that are selling calls, thinking that the reverse of buying a call, right? So that's interesting.
Yeah, especially if they're the institutional holders, right, that are basically saying, hey, take away mine. Please go up a little bit and take away my shares, and I'll be happy with it.
Yeah, they sold them to Open, so yeah, we're putting that in there now.
Yeah, and Microsoft now down almost a percentage point there now.
We talked about that this morning, yeah.
Yeah, I just said it. It's just the one that I don't ever get excited about anymore. I mean, I really don't. And I was a huge user of Microsoft. I think that they made a smart move. They were the first to say you can't buy our software, right? You got to rent it, which I hate, but it's great for them. But they haven't done much else since. And, I think Microsoft's just considered stale, unfortunately, for them. We are seeing a pullback a little bit here by WRD since that halt. It was up over 120% at one time, now only up 95%. So they're pulling back. On the other side of that, MGOL continuing to move up here this morning, now up 30% on that. A lot of the ones that were up earlier this morning on earnings are just sort of holding wind. Roku here still up 13%. It had gotten as high as 105 earlier, now back down around 98. So again, we are seeing these earnings reports. They tend to wear off here. The one that's not so far, Airbnb, showing some nice movement here, Steve. looking to try to move to their all-time high around 170. You think they can break the all-time high here today?
No. I think what's going to happen here, we're going to get up here and we're going to see some selling.
A huge sell-off, you think, people? Yeah. I mean, just to point out here, we'll move a little bit to our left to say, when did that come? That all-time high was back in March
Airbnb's
last year.
CEO now saying that it's still too early for AI trip planning. I agree with that. I think it's a little too early for that. I don't think we're going to see AI actually making our plans, but
yeah, not yet, not yet. I'll let it do reservations. I'm like Matthew McConaughey. I'll use it to trust it to make some reservations at restaurants for me, maybe, but I don't think I would be there yet on a whole trip.
And here you go. You're just hearing now that Airbnb's co-founder, Airbnb, Joe Gabbia, now says he is reportedly is joining Elon Musk's Doge.
Wow. Like I said, these tweets, well, I don't know what you put next. Although, if I'm not mistaken, he was part of the PayPal mafia, right, Joe Gabbia?
Business inventory is now coming in down 0.2%. The forecast there was for minus 0.1%. So business inventory is coming in a little lighter than expected here. And it is 10 o'clock. I need to run, but yeah.
Okay. I got Mr. Flanagan to replace Mr. Orr. Steven, you have a great Valentine's Day. Give my best to the wife. Mr. Flanagan, what is going on with the DXY, my friend?
Yeah, get ready. Volatility, as we've been saying, it's back. A quick, what's at the root of it? There's no World War III.
Not yet.
No,
We'll see. Hey, you're speaking a little quickly. Let's see what happens with Hamas and Israel tomorrow, right?
Well,
12 o'clock noon. Get your popcorn ready.
That's right. Geopolitics back to front and center stage in the FX world. United States, Ukraine, Russia, all suddenly talking a little chummy, and perhaps we have an end to this war, which would be just awesome insight. And of course, one of the things that we perhaps, I myself missed a little bit here was the amount of short euro positions that had been built up as a result of this conflict. We had talked about it for months, years, but clearly a move towards peace, the first knee-jerk reaction, along with a number of other issues, delayed tariffs, but the knee-jerk reaction, of course, is to cover euro short positions, especially given the fact that we were in that point of no return. If we got much below that 102.20 area,
right,
we were heading for parity in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So a knee-jerk reaction, nice. We've had, if you look at technicals, you got a nice rounding bottom. I did bring a chart to share with you on the dollar index.
Awesome.
I'll attempt to do this right now.
Let's put us on the screen while you're looking at that. While we talk about that, Steve, we've been talking about China. Big move up here. Looks like people are trusting that, DJT and Mr. Z are going to get along. What are you thinking?
This is like the unknown that was out there, lurking beneath the bottom, a major part of Trump and peace. I guess if we look back at 2016 and take them during that period of time, it was an incredible, peaceful 4 years throughout the world.
Yeah.
If we're moving back, and I guess we have to look at that data as a back test here, U.S., China, if we can resolve some differences, Ukraine, Russia, resolve differences, the Middle East, look at the Middle East. Look at all the people now jumping forward on this Gaza, zone. You've got Egypt jumping in. You've got several other Middle Eastern countries.
Jordan agreed to take, for the first time ever, 2,000 Gazan refugees.
Right. So, and then throw in one more, U.S. and India suddenly,
Yeah. Well, he's always been pretty tight with Mondi, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. But let's face it, India has some of the highest reciprocal type tariffs against the U.S. So, reciprocal tariffs, and now we're delayed until April. one after the other, new data points. And as you know, I stress very highly, today's markets are computer model driven. And suddenly all these new data points come in that all have to be given a weighting. And what is the weighting? We're moving from a little bit overweight in the dollar, maybe a little bit more than just a tiny bit. And suddenly we're shifting back to the center. So you asked on a dollar index, 106.60, 107 was my big area of support. The dollar index right now is probably a bit lower than that.
It actually went back above. We did break slightly below your mark. I got nervous. I don't know if you heard me about 10 minutes before you came in. I said, we need to get him in here. We're at the spot where the vacuum could come in and pull this thing down. If it does pull it down, where are you looking more at this 106.645 area of support, or you think we're coming back down this 105.40 area?
105.80, 106.20 would be the next level where, I think you have to take a good hard look at the world. And, if solutions are not in place, right now it's headlines, but if solutions are not in place, you're really in the zone of buying right here, 106.60, 107 the figure.
Do you want to share a chart, Steve?
Yes, I do. I do have a dollar index. Let's see how good I can do this. Here we go. So what I want to
just click on it now.
Okay, I did lose that. Yeah, I'll try it one more time.
Oh, you had it. It was there.
Yeah.
Bear with us for 1 second here as Steve.
Yes, this is our first
technology. So down on the bottom where you see it now, just click on it and hit add to stage.
Okay. Is that it? There we go. Okay, so you've got this long-term trend line of support. Our most recent low was this 107-ish area. This is where the spike up occurred, 106.60. And we've been holding that so far pretty well. And I do believe that this move here is valid. You've had a lot of profit taking. So there's a lot of money sitting now on the sidelines waiting here and whether to decide whether to re-engage into the dollar index. Keep in mind, 54% of the dollar index is the euro dollar. Right. And the euro dollar, okay, as I said, volatility getting ready. What do we have a week from this Sunday is a German election. And you could have the entire core of the Eurozone shaken at its core. Right now, this is a forced election. And right now, you've got the CDU and the CSU, which is the ruling party, let's say, polling at about 30%. But this AFD, which is the alternative party, has coming up strong, roughly running in around a 20% right now. And this is the party, let's call it the populist movement party. This is the one we want to watch out for. If I jump in, I can attempt to share a secondary screen.
Absolutely. I just put up that. When you put yours in, we'll just replace it. You got it.
Okay. So this is, let's see. Did that share?
Nope. You got to pull. You got to hit the present button and then.
Okay. So let's try this again. Present, share screen. Boom.
No, not share screen. Remember, you're sharing a PDF.
Okay.
That's what you're doing. There it is. I'll bring it in for you.
Okay, so here's the euro dollar clear downtrend line, and we've broken back up, retesting. What I'm trying to itemize in both of these charts is the rounding type of bottom that we're in. Stochastic models are clearly trying to move from an oversold condition, and the euro is broken up very sharply. Being over 50% of the dollar index, you can understand why the dollar index has reacted the way it has. We're right now moving to this zone of resistance. And I'm thinking if we get up around 106, 105.50, 106, that's the level to re-enter, especially if next week we see that level. We've relieved a lot of this oversold nature in the dollar, in the euro dollar, and then you've got an election coming up. What is
Yeah,
it?
I like that. I like that fade at 106.076 or so is what I'm looking at. I'm about, when you go down to 4 decimal points, I'm $2 away, 2 cents away, or not even 2 cents, 2 hundredths of a cent away from you.
That's right. And keep in mind that the euro dollar trades actually in 5 decimal points. So in,
Oh
in
yeah,
my
245. I see it. Yeah, so it's the
in
fifth.
my
That's where we differ on the 5th decimal point. So can you try to tighten it up and stay consistent with me?
in my world of trading,
Those
everything.
matter. Yeah. I mean, those matter if you're doing enough volume. For me, I don't, if I can't hold it in my hand, it doesn't matter.
Right. So I'm going to just stop out of my sharing screen here, see
Okay.
how that works. There we are. We're back. So, one, geopolitics all over the market, new data points, and that's affecting currency trading today. You can see how quick things moves. Money moves so fast. So, what's going to happen? Look at China. China's beginning to bottom, and we're beginning to see good growth. But what coincides with the China move is all this high tech that's getting suddenly released,
Yeah.
and that is remarkable in this world where everybody 2 months ago was talking US Nvidia, US, all the US companies. Now suddenly the space, Apple moving in with some of the Chinese AI, and suddenly this is a solid point. I'm still number two looking at Japan. I like Japan as my number two outside of the dollar, but China, as we've talked, is the third one moving in. On the horizon, now we can begin to see Europe out there, maybe around the May, June, maybe a little bit further out, depending on the election results, depending on the type of changes we can make. But one headline that did come out that caught me: Eurozone household saving rates are now higher than COVID. So
Really?
what?
So the exact opposite of the US, because we
Exact
just heard
opposite,
that we're at all-time high debt for
and
credit
a
card
lot of
debt and the like.
and a lot of pent up buying that's out there pending constructive changes into the European system. Because right now, yeah, you've got the Eurozone, industrial production came out minus 1.1%. Employment, it was up 0.1%. So the numbers are still abysmal. They're just,
Yeah.
basically the client, the economy still has a little bit of life. So here's my
I've been a
view.
little surprised personally because, not, to get a little, not too far away from what you're saying, there is the stock 600 has just been mooning, here 52-week highs. I mean, I know it was beaten down to death because it was so anemic, but I've been surprised that they've been able to continue the strength. I thought 2 or 3 different times we were going to see a reversal here, but it's still showing strong. And I guess part of that might be that they have money to spend, right? There's money on the sidelines there. And that
Money on
money
the
on the
sidelines.
sidelines is maybe coming into their stock market.
Money on the sidelines, and a broadening belief in the financial markets that this reciprocal tariffs, let's take that at its face value. Tariffs are not good, right? It's not good for worldwide trade.
Right.
But we've got a guy in there who seems to be a great deal maker. Now, if the world does in fact say, all right, we'll move tariffs down a little bit, think about the positive that
Absolutely.
has in the global financial world. And markets, like you just showed there, are beginning to show that these massive $1 trillion funds are beginning to say, okay, I'm 30%, 35% in the US waiting. Maybe I need to slide that down to 32%. Where am I underweight? Europe. And
Right.
that's what you're beginning to see, is a lot of the models are beginning to try to put balance back. And that's really what's behind this whole dollar index play right now, right back to support.
Now, are you someone that thinks is this the time that it should be doing that? I think, it would be my question. In other words, is this accumulation going to then, do you think it's the right time where we then see it move into that upswing for, stocks in those areas where maybe now, it starts to form a base, it's been beaten up, it's consolidated. Do we now see the upswing on some of these?
Again, money moves first. Money's already indicated what was going on. So that was all on the headlines as new data points came in. Now it's the follow through.
That's
I
what I mean.
think Europe is going to lag on follow through.
Okay,
So
that's what you answer. That's exactly what I was getting to. We've seen this move. Will the next move come with it that you sometimes see? It's like, when Warren Buffett buys a stock, it does its first move, right? And then once everything hits the news, it makes that second move up sometimes. So that's what I was looking for. You don't think the follow through is there yet? Makes sense to me because there's still a lot to be figured out there. While they are, moving ahead in certain areas, the economy still is dribbles and drabs. And you just hit at it. If everyone's holding their money and not spending money, your economy's not going to grow, right? So you're in a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. If everyone's just holding their money under their bed, it becomes hard for GDP to grow much.
That's right. And how much of that money is disposable? Or is it all tied into investments? If the savings rates is investment related, then it's not really going to get put to use per se. So overall, I'm looking at this world right now and saying tremendous amount of positives. The next up is China. China is beginning to come out of this now. And now we're going to see probably the long-awaited next leg of their stimulus hit the market once their Politburo meets and makes the decisions. So that's something to keep in mind. And that's another great positive to the world. But geopolitics back in the forefront. Another story out there that, I've been following, I'm sure you've heard about it, is the United States going to revalue its gold from its present $42.22. That could be the basis of a sovereign wealth fund right there. Who knows? But yet another potential new data point that the world is going to react to.
And we might go on back to the gold standard if you're listening to the president.
Stability would be a good thing. Peace would be even a better thing. You might be on this precipice of an incredible investment marketplace. My view is, as I've said, I want to get through April. And then I think that the king dollar will resume. So anywhere between now and then, as a macro longer term trader, I'm in a zone where I want to establish my long dollar index play here, because I believe that, the takeoff point is, a few months ahead of us.
Absolutely. I had a question to have someone asking here, what is meant by money moves first? Ron, what we mean there is Mr. Flanagan has pointed out from day one that when you get these economic data, when you get these news reports, the first thing to look at is probably DXY or the currency pairs, because they move before people can make any other move. They're the most, I'll let him explain, but the most algorithmically based, most electronic trading out there, the most instantaneous way to take a look at what's going on. Will you expound on that a little bit for him, Mr. Flanagan?
Sure. I mean, $7.5 trillion trades in one single day. If you're an investor, a large investor, if you're looking over multiple billions or trillion-dollar funds, the first button that you hit when a new data point comes in is the currency market. Why? Because it trades 24 hours a day with incredible amounts of liquidity. So money always will move first. Take a bar chart. Look at when we suddenly heard tariffs are going to be decided in April. What was the first thing that happened in the world? Dollar yen dropped about 100 plus points. So, and that was in a relatively short period of time.
And I'm going to pull it up on the screen here, mine. You'll be able to see just right here. Look at that wick right here when the data came out at 8:30 on retail sales.
And
you see the wick right there.
From a historical point of view, and I don't want to elaborate. I hate elaborating on some of the points, but if you look prior to some big events that have taken place in the world over the last 20, 25 years, you will see a move in the currency market a day or two beforehand. Just something from a historical look back point of view, which is why my mantra always is money moves first, whether it's in a millisecond or whether it's in a bigger picture.
Absolutely. And part of that or I'd have to ask, is part of that because a lot of currency moves also from nations, right? So the people who are making these decisions know what decisions they're going to make, that are going to affect the market too.
That's correct. Yes. And today, as we move to a 1-day settlement, and if we ever get into the crypto space of same time settlement, you can just imagine how quick
Oh,
money
yeah.
will begin to move. As it is, they're estimating that the next BIS, Bank for International Settlements, um, volume metrics as to the currency markets may in fact put it well up into the $8.5 trillion a day. So
Wow. Yeah, but he thanks you for that explanation for sure. He's already put it here on our comments, but that's why we do say it. That's why we have Mr. Flanagan on 3 times a week. Our number one pillar of our education system is teaching people the things that you need to have on your screen. Like we said, you should have DXY. From there, you should have Euro USD. You should probably have USD JPY, excuse me, the yen, Mexico, Canada, and then a hidden one that you've given me is the sterling to the yen.
Ah, yes, indeed. Yeah, and sterling right now. Why is sterling doing so well today? I mean, it stands out as a high interest rate currency at 4.75%.
Right.
Amongst
Absolutely.
the industrial world, if I'm uncertain of what's going on, I'm going to jump into a very liquid currency, probably the second or third most traded pair, the sterling dollar. I'm going to jump into that and hold at that interest rate and earn what we call earning the points. A high interest rate currency versus a low interest rate currency. When it's funded overnight, you earn the points being long the high interest rate, and you pay away small points on the low interest rate.
Right. Absolutely. What do you got for us before we leave here? We got a long weekend. We're not going to see you till Wednesday next week. What do you have for us?
Right before the German election on Sunday, February 23rd. That's the next major thing on the horizon that I want to be watching out. That's going to create a lot of dollar index because the euro dollar is over 50% of the dollar index. Watch that one carefully. I think if you do see change, and this change can cut 2 ways. One, if the AfD party does gain substantially, they're talking about deficit spending. So that could be a big positive in the Eurozone. One will have to wait and see exactly what the policy comes out, but I'm watching that. That's my next big data point.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Flanagan, like always, for joining us. We'll see you on Wednesday. Quasar Markets Live. We are back today at 1 o'clock with Scott Bauer and the Prosper Trading Crew. We're going to be off for a little bit. I got a session to do with Dr. Alan Ellman from the Blue Collar Investor, but his show will be on today at 11 o'clock. We're going to have his episode today on IBIT. He's looking at doing the wheel trade and covered calls using Bitcoin's ETF. So like I'm trying to orange pill Mr. Flanagan here, I've already got my first guy lined up. One of the most conservative investors in the educational system here at Quasar, the blue collar investor. He only does covered calls and cash secured puts, is jumping into the world of Bitcoin today, and we'll have it on the show. Then we have Market Rebels on at 1:30 today, the Nigerian brothers and their great show, when we finish up with Trader TV. Everybody have a fantastic day. Mr. Flanagan, thank you like always.
Have a great weekend and happy Valentine's.